Ronaldo Nazario was an unstoppable attacking force and is widely regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. He revolutionized the striker position and destroyed countless world-class defenses throughout his career. Let's check out the real reasons as to why this football legend was called the Phenomenon. Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima grew up in a suburb of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil during the 1980s. Like many Brazilian soccer players, he started playing futsal before joining a youth football team. As a youngster, Ronaldo smashed goal-scoring records at that level, and his old futsal coach said it was like he came from the moon, citing his mentality as what separated him from other kids his age. Weirdly, as a young Ronaldo dominated in junior futsal, he didn't get picked up by the four massive Rio de Janeiro clubs like Vasco da Gama, Flamengo, Fluminense, and Botafogo, which they would later come to regret. The first youth club that he officially signed for ended up being small local team São Cristóvão, but the young Brazilian star had no idea what was still to come. Jairzinho was a massive attacking talent from the Pelé years in the 1960s and 70s, and he had been in charge of Ronaldo's first football team when he was just a boy. Jairzinho was an ex-Cruzeiro legend and went straight to his old club to recommend they sign up the Wonder Kid before anyone else. Many teams were watching the youngster closely, but the contacts of the old World Cup winner turned out to be important in taking Ronaldo's talents the 5-hour drive north to Belo Horizonte. As a 16-year-old, Ronaldo Nazario was given his debut with the first team of Cruzeiro in May 1993, but remained on the fringes of the team for a few months, struggling to get any game time. Eventually, he was given a chance to impress the coach on their summer tour of Portugal, where Ronaldo destroyed FC Porto while still aged only 16 years old. Cruzeiro was forced to reject an immediate $500,000 bid for the player by the Portuguese giants after the game, as they were amazed by his ability for his age. This would be an omen for what was to come for Cruzeiro, and their coach was convinced to start him from that point onwards. The phenomenon continued to impress in 1994, which drew the attention of the entire world, including the Brazilian national team. The 1994 World Cup in the United States was on the horizon, and Ronaldo was included in the squad. While he didn't make an appearance in the competition, he was around the team for the pre-World Cup friendlies where he managed to score and assist. Brazil went on to win the '94 World Cup, and despite not playing, he received a winner's medal. The fact he was even there just shows how highly he was thought of by Brazilian coaches, and it must have really served him well to learn from the greatest team in the world at that time. The season after the World Cup in 1994, European clubs circled to sign the Brazilian prospect. Playing as a substitute to the elegant and skillful genius of Romario during the World Cup would end up guiding him to his next club, much in the way Jairzinho had shepherded him to his first club in Brazil. Romario laid the way for Ronaldo to head to the Netherlands and set the young striker up to join the team that gave him the breakthrough in Europe at PSV Eindhoven. R9 would go on to plow through the Eredivisie defenders and European Cup competitions immediately. He went on to contribute 61 goals in 54 games for the Dutch Giants and ended the 94-95 season as their top goal scorer. However, it was almost impossible to beat the Eredivisie champions that year, as Ajax would not just win the league, but famously win the Champions League final with one of the youngest teams in history. Ronaldo won the cup with PSV the season after, but was unfortunately hit with a worrying injury to his patellar tendon in his knee that would come back to haunt him later in his career. This did not stop the massive clubs of Europe from starting a bidding war for the hottest striker in world football. At only 19 years old, the striker signed for a record-breaking $19.5 million for FC Barcelona, fighting off interest from Inter Milan to name just one of many interested clubs. As before, Romario had previously moved from PSV to Barcelona, which would have surely helped to grease the wheels for the Catalans to sign Ronaldo. His time at Barcelona was what cemented him in the eyes of many as the greatest player around at that time. His devastating pace, sometimes seeming faster than players that didn't even have the ball while he was dribbling, was too much for Spanish defenses, and he destroyed every defense that he came up against. In just one season, El Fenomeno, as he became known in Spanish, amassed an incredible 60 goals and assists in a total of 4,240 minutes of football in all competitions. That equals a ridiculous goal or assist every 70 minutes of football while playing in Catalunya, something they were not going to see anything close to again until Leo Messi graced the Nou Camp years later. By the end of 1996, the phenomenon had won his first Ballon d'Or at just 19 years old, making him the youngest player to ever win the award. However, after only 1 year at Barca, in a move that shocked world football, Inter came knocking again for Ronaldo's golden boots and bought him out of his contract for a world record $27 million. This meant that the Brazilian would become the second player after Diego Maradona to break the world transfer fee twice in his career. Unfortunately for the Italians, though, this money was not as great an investment as his first season in Italy suggested. R9 carried on his insane goal-scoring displays in Milan during the 97-98 season as the next World Cup loomed on the horizon. In all competitions, Ronaldo contributed 38 goals in his first season in Italy as they went close to winning the league and the UEFA Cup that year. Italian football had a reputation built on defending and had some of the best defenders in the world such as Paolo Maldini, Fabio Cannavaro, and Franco Baresi playing for his main rivals. This made everyone take note, as the teams were a lot stronger defensively than the Spanish and Brazilian teams that he was used to. But that didn't stop Ronaldo, who narrowly missed out as the Serie A top scorer that season. This would put him in good stead for the upcoming World Cup in France in 1998. He joined the Brazilian national team as easily the best player on the planet. His reputation spread around Europe, and a playful yet direct approach summed up Ronaldo Nazario's approach to the beautiful game. Unfortunately, though, the pressure and growing stress of expectation would culminate in the striker hitting a wall just hours before the final of the World Cup. He had impressed and contributed 4 goals and provided 3 assists on the way to the final, but suffered a seizure hours before the final against the hosts in Paris. Brazilian coach at the time Mario Zagallo said afterwards that Ronaldo never should have played in the final after what he'd been through mentally and physically just hours before the game, but he played the final anyway. The state of the world's greatest player had a massively negative impact on the overall team, and they couldn't stop a Zinedine Zidane-led French side going on to beat them comfortably 3-0. To pay tribute to the greatness of the Brazilian striker, FIFA named him the player of the tournament. Ronaldo headed back to Italy after the World Cup, but things were not the same. Staying with Inter Milan, the 4 years leading up to the 2002 World Cup would be hell. He staggered back to playing regularly in 1998 after his injury and was given the captain's armband towards the end of the 98-99 season, which saw a jump in production. But in an awful moment 10 games into the next season, Ronaldo suffered his second patella tendon injury in his right knee going down in the 59th minute versus Lecce. This saw El Fenomeno out for 6 months, but incredibly, as he made his long-awaited return to the first team in the Cup against Lazio in April, he tore the same tendon again. This took the wind out of the football world as the pity and loss was felt by everyone. The feeling of never seeing such an amazing player ever reach his full ability again was a universal blow. Amazingly, in one of the greatest comeback stories of all time, Ronaldo Nazario was able to garner enough match fitness to be ready to play for Brazil in the 2002 World Cup. This was his tournament. R9 willed himself and his country through an unbeaten tournament, smashing 8 goals on the way to lift the trophy. Although some of the power and pace had been taken off from years on the sidelines, his mentality and perseverance showed why he was one of the best to ever play the game. At the time, the question on every football fan's mind was, if R9 had not been injured, just how many more goals, trophies, and awards could he have won? He seriously had no equal, and this World Cup win saw him at the peak of football, where he belonged. After his stellar performance, Ronaldo was deservedly awarded his second career Ballon d'Or. When the tournament came to an end, Real Madrid saw a chance to sign the legend, and the phenomenon moved to La Liga once again, playing for the Spanish Giants for 5 years during the famous Galacticos era. However, he would never be able to recreate his performances of the past and would head back to Milan and play for AC Milan. Tragically, though, his career would eventually be stopped by the dreaded patella tendon recurrence in 2009, which surely denied him the chance to play in the 2010 World Cup. Ronaldo did end up recovering enough so that he could play his last club football in 2010 for Corinthians in Sao Paulo, seeing him almost coming full circle to play for a club 5-hour drive from his home in Rio. In terms of individual awards and accomplishments, Ronaldo's impact on the World Cup saw him become the overall scoring leader in the competition with a total of 15 goals. He won 2 Ballon d'Or awards given to the Player of the Year, but surely could have won more if it was not for his injuries. In general, he lacked club honors, coming up against some impressive teams wherever he went, but that didn't lessen his impact on the game. Ronaldo fused all the attacking positions into a unique, powerful weapon that was unstoppable. Combining immense skill and wit, he finished so many goals by rounding the goalkeeper. He could dribble past several defenders in tight spaces and perform intricate interplay with his teammates in complex passing moves. This is why he was called the phenomenon. His talents were obvious, but what he did for the striker position and his superhuman powers of recovery from injury put him in a special place in world and Brazilian football history. Another Brazilian football icon that was loved by all was the skillful sensation Ronaldinho, who is widely regarded as the flashiest footballer of all time. Want to know more about his iconic career? Check out this video right here, where we look at just how he compares to the greats of football.